Hello guys and girls, in this video today we are quickly going to be going over the counter argument paragraph that you all wrote last week. We're going to talk about what I was looking for and possibly some different ways that you could have improved the counter argument that you submitted. First things first, we're going to read through the article. I do have it pulled up on the screen, so you are welcome to follow along with me, or you can follow along on your copy of the text. Our passage that we were focusing on this week is called "Should We Get Rid of Paper Money?" Cash seems to be on its way out. Is that a good thing? Here's a riddle. I was invented more than 1,000 years ago. I can be germier than a toilet seat. At least two countries are trying to get rid of me forever. What am I? Paper money. For centuries, people around the world have used paper money and coins, cash in other words, to buy stuff. But now technology has made it possible to get just about anything you want without ever touching a dollar, quarter, or nickel. We can shop online and in stores with credit cards and debit cards and apps on our phones. Within 10 years, cash will seem old-fashioned, predicts Susan Crawford, a technology expert at Harvard University. Indeed, Amazon, Shake Shack, and Starbucks are among the many businesses experimenting with going cashless. Even entire countries like Sweden and South Korea are getting rid of cash. But the cashless trend has sparked a debate. While it offers many exciting opportunities, getting rid of cash has some serious drawbacks too. A hassle. Paper money was invented in China in the 7th century. At the time, it offered revolutionary convenience. Instead of lugging around heavy gold coins or something to trade, a fur pelt, say, or a few chickens, all you needed were a few lightweight slips of paper. Today, however, cash can seem like a hassle. Standing in line counting out bills and coins can take forever. Why bother when you could snag that burrito with a tap of a finger? And if you lose your cash, it's probably gone forever. With digital transactions, money is better protected. No wonder nearly half of Americans would rather use apps than cash. Moreover, producing money takes a lot of, well, money. Right now, about 45 billion bills are in use in the US. Over time, they get damaged and must be replaced. Last year, the US set aside nearly $900 million for printing new currency. Doesn't that seem like a waste? Risky and expensive. Maybe not. Along with the positives of going cash free, there are also some negatives. First of all, things could get more expensive. Why? Each time you buy something with an app or a credit card, the stores get charged a fee. To make up that fee, stores often raise prices. What's more, without cash, we have to rely entirely on technology to buy things. What if a storm knocks out the power for days? Without cash on hand, you have no way to purchase anything. Plus, the more we rely on digital transactions, the greater the risk of having our personal information stolen or used in ways we might not like. Another problem is that as more businesses stop accepting cash, a lot of people could be left out. About 7.4 million people in the US use only cash and don't have bank accounts. One reason is that some banks charge fees if you don't keep a minimum amount in your account, and not everyone can afford that. And nearly 20% of adults don't own a smartphone. What would they do if cash were no longer an option? Here's another drawback: the temptation to overspend. Something about handing over physical bills just seems more real than tapping a screen. When paying with cash, you might be more likely to think twice about that new $35 phone case. Then again, cash is kind of gross. A 2017 study of dollar bills in New York City found hundreds of different kinds of germs on the money. Do we really want to carry that around in our bags and pockets? Of course, you can just wash your hands after touching it. So, what do you think? Is it time for cash to go the way of the dinosaur? Our prompt today says, for centuries, people around the world have used paper money and coins to make purchases, but new technology has made it possible to get just about anything you want without ever touching a dollar, quarter, or nickel. With this in mind, the mayor of Hodgenville is considering a policy that would make our town cashless. If passed, local businesses will no longer accept paper money and will instead take payment through debit cards, credit cards, and online accounts. Is that a good idea? Write a letter to the mayor of Hodgenville stating your opinion on this topic. Be sure to include relevant evidence from the provided article to support your ideas. Now, of course, I did not ask you guys to write an entire on-demand or an entire letter about this prompt. Instead, what you were asked to do is right here. It says, write a counter-argument paragraph that refutes the following claim. In other words, write a paragraph that proves this claim to be untrue. The city of Hodgenville should get rid of paper money because using cash is a hassle. So again, you were asked to write a counter-argument paragraph. So as a quick reminder, the purpose of the counter-argument is to take an argument from the opposite side and prove it wrong. In other words, we are proving this statement wrong. We should get rid of paper money because it is a hassle. Instead, we have to tell why we should keep paper money. When you are writing a counter-argument paragraph, your paragraph needs to start with the opposing argument. So we're actually starting with this statement that I provided to you, and it might look something like this. Some argue the city of Hodgenville should get rid of paper money because using cash is a hassle. Again, I copied that straight from what was already provided to you in the directions. So step number one of a counter argument is to introduce an opposing argument. Now, the next step of the counter argument is to give our counterclaim. So we have to give a reason why this is not a good enough reason to get rid of paper money. A great way to start your counter argument is with the word however. And now I'm going to introduce my viewpoint. However, the city should not get rid of paper money because doing so is risky. The word risky is important here, so I'm going to highlight it in the color green. Everything else in this paragraph needs to support the idea that getting rid of paper money is a risk. If you get rid of it, bad things could happen. Now, if you look back at the text, there is a whole section of the text called risky and expensive. So I actually got my idea for my counter argument from this title of this section. I pulled the word risky right from the title here. So probably anything that you find as evidence in this section of the text is going to be really good evidence to use in your paragraph. This is also probably a good spot for me to remind you that this is a video, so if you want to pause right now and copy what you currently see on the screen, you are more than welcome to do that. The rest of our counter argument paragraph is structured just like our body paragraphs. So we're going to have two E1s, two pieces of evidence, and we're going to have two E2s, so two explanations. Great way to start your E1, your E1 is with the text says, and then remember we're going to have our quotation marks and we're going to cite some evidence directly from the text. And again, I'm pulling this evidence from the section that says risky and expensive. What if a storm knocks out the power for days? Without cash on hand, you'd have no way to purchase anything. And I have my period and I have my closing quotation marks. That's my E1. I have some evidence from the text. Now I have to give an explanation. So how does this evidence prove that if we go cashless in Hodgenville, we are taking a risk? Remember, our E2s need to be at least 2 sentences long, but I've actually written 3 here. Around here, storms knock out the power all the time. If people didn't have cash, they wouldn't be able to buy important items like water, canned food, or even a generator. This could be a big problem and make it harder for people to stay safe. So in my E2 here, I'm explaining that the risk is that the power could go out, and if the power goes out, people are not going to be able to buy important things that they would need if there was a big storm, and that's ultimately going to cause the people of Hodgenville to be less safe. So again, I'm trying to support the idea that getting rid of cash is risky, so we need to keep cash in Hodgenville. So now that I have an E1 and an E2, I'm going to use an internal transition. We could use things like furthermore, additionally, also, or next. I've used the word furthermore, and I have the text also states. This is where I'm going to leave you. You can copy what I already have, and that will have your opposing argument, your counter argument, your first E1, your first E2 done. Also, your internal transition is done. So it is going to be your job to come up with the second E1, the second E2, and the concluding sentence. So next, you're going to go back to the section of the text titled Risky and Expensive. You are going to cite some evidence that shows that getting rid of paper money would be a risk for Hodgenville. Then you're going to give me an E2 where you explain how that evidence shows that there's a risk. And then you're going to give me a concluding sentence to wrap up all of your ideas in this paragraph. This is where I'm going to leave you. Good luck in writing the rest of your counter argument.